And this is Matt Watson here on Take It to the Mat on Talk 107.3 plus Facebook Live, and then you'll see it coming out on YouTube. I've got Henry Turner Jr., owner of Henry Turner's Listening Room and Blues Museum. Absolutely. And you're the producer of the Soul Food Festival, which is happening next weekend. So let's start this right off, because I tell you what, I got Henry Turner Jr. here. I'm so glad that I have you in the studio. So thank you so much for taking the time and coming up.
Pleasure's mine, man.
I talked to a guy the other day, and he told me he hadn't heard anything about the Soul Food Festival, which is happening for 3 days next weekend.
Absolutely.
Downtown, it's going to be a competition for different kinds of foods. You're going to have all different kinds of bands and all this kind of stuff.
Of course. Why
don't you tell me how you put it together? This is what, the 4th annual Soul Food Festival?
Absolutely.
I went to last year's. That was it. You had beautiful weather last year for it.
Yes, you did.
So,
yes, you did.
Henry, tell everybody out there that hasn't heard about it yet, why in the heck they should be downtown Baton Rouge next weekend for an event as beautiful as this.
So first of all, there's no competition for good food. So people stop all things for great food. And
Gotcha.
Soul food is one of those foods that originated in the African American community. It has a rich history, and I mean a rich history concerning filling and fattening. So those two things, you can't fight when it comes down to good food. But the history of it, man, let's go back in the 1950s and 60s. Even the late 40s in Baton Rouge, there was a great soul food culture. There was a lot of mom and pop soul food restaurants. And by the time the 90s rolled around, the decline of soul food and the stamp that it was unhealthy and clogged arteries and heart attacks and strokes and all of that contributed from soul food and the richness.
Do you think there was any competition from chain stores moving in, kind of moving out some of the local stores, no matter what kind of food they were, with that local stuff? I
think from the most part, I think that people were truly concerned about health and all the things initially. But then when all of the other ethnic cultures came in, the Asians and the Arabs and whatever, and then they put soul food right in like a fast food joint or put it right in a gas station or put it wherever and just hire an ethnic person to cook it, pick up the recipe and then, go from there. And I think that that was one of the most motivating factors for me to reintroduce it as a cultural food. And to really get down to the history of where it came from and what it could do in terms of monetizing the community and economic development and tourism dollars and all that kind of stuff. So that was my direction. That was my reason.
That's awesome. And that's going to be outside downtown.
Well, it's 3 days of soul food. We always start with a pre-party, and last year our pre-party was over at the Hollywood Casino. This year we're taking it to our listening room on North Street, 2733 North Street.
2733 North Street.
Yeah, and we do that on the 24th of June, and that starts about 8 o'clock and go to midnight. We'll have, we call it greens, beans, and chicken wing pre-party. Yeah, so it'll be just that. It'll be collard greens, mustard greens, cornbread, chicken wings,
well, that's awesome. Let's talk about the Soul Food Fest on the other side of this break that we got coming up here. We'll be right back with Take It to the Mat and Henry Turner Jr.
Said I love my soul food. Oh yes, said I love my soul food, y'all. I love this food, said I love my soul food. Oh, I love this food, said I love my soul food.
So we heard the recording with a band, but we're going to hear and folks are going to see you play this. What's the title of it? I love my soul food.
Yeah, I love my soul food.
I love my soul food.
It's about soul food. I'll start with a verse because I want to let people they've heard the hook 1,000 times on the radio or TV and all that, but I want to just give them a little bit of some of the insight on what's happening.
Absolutely.
What about some chitlins, y'all, over rice? What about some collard green and cornbread? What about some fried chicken, some black-eyed peas? Said I love the soul food. Said I love my soul food. All I love is food. Said I love my soul food, yeah. I love my soul food. Yes, I love wanting some, y'all. I've been wanting some wild game, country style. Want some cornbread. I've been wanting some cool, some sweet potatoes. Said I love the soul food. I love the soul food. Said I love my soul food, y'all. I love it, I do. Said I love the soul food. Oh, I love this food. Said I love the soul food. I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it.
Well, all
A
right.
little bit of it.
All right.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a bunch of music. Are you going to be
absolutely.
playing out there
Oh,
as well
absolutely,
over the
yeah.
weekend? And
Yeah,
how
I'll
many
play.
bands you think? I'm looking at the list, and like we were talking during the break,
Yeah.
it's almost just too many to
There'll
list.
be constant music from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Saturday night, and of course at the pre-party from 8 p.m. to midnight, constant music.
Yeah.
And on Sunday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Now all of those bands you'll be able to find on the Soul Food site, brsoulfoodfest.com.
brsoulfoodfest.com.
Yeah.
And you're going to have blues, funk, gospel.
Absolutely.
I'm just reading off here, but I'm trying to think if want to make sure that I tell everybody about this, because when I talk to somebody who's usually in the know that hasn't heard about this, well, I want to make sure everybody comes, because the food is going to be great, the music is going to be great. So, what else do we need to know about how often you have traveling acts that come through at the listening room?
We've had people from American Idol come through. We've had a lot of local regional people come through. And I mean, it's just basically an incubator for singer-songwriters and producers and marketers and people that want to come and network and do some stuff with Louisiana.
That's great. Do you ever record stuff that somebody puts out? You know, like other than doing Facebook Live, what I mean is like have somebody come out and like
It's
put a
interesting
special
you say
thing.
that. We actually have a television show that we're putting together. And
Oh,
we're
yeah?
Yeah, we're trying to put together probably like 12 episodes of a show.
Mhm.
We've had we had like a thing called it was like a blues camp, and we recorded the whole thing in production, and we also put it out on social media. But those things will be coming to like Play to Fun and a couple
Mhm.
different other platforms,
Mhm.
and so we're creating products out of there all the time.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to let you go because I know you've got plenty of stuff to do back at the listening room.
We're frying fish tonight.
Oh yeah,
So we'll be
frying
frying
fish
fish in probably
over at the
30
listening
minutes.
room on North Street. Give me that address again.
2733 North Street.
2733 North Street. Henry Turner Jr. at Henry Turner Jr.'s Listening Room and Blues Museum. Get out there and check it out sometime. And make sure you get out next weekend for the Soul Food Festival, because it's going to be great. And let's just hope it rains itself out before early enough in the week that it dries out there.
I looked at the forecast, and on Sunday it says potentially light rain, but Saturday is a good. It's supposed to be cloudy, so that'd be perfect.
Yeah, a little bit of cloudiness to keep you
Cool it
from
down a little bit.
being too hot.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, Henry,
Matt,
thank you so much for making the
you.
time to come up and talk with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Henry Turner Jr., thank you so much for coming